The iPhone 16 Pro Max was one of Apple's biggest smartphones when it launched, but now we're in 2026 and the iPhone 18 generation is just around the corner. So the big question is the iPhone 16 Pro Max still worth buying today, or should you spend more money on a newer iPhone? Let's find out. Starting with the design, the iPhone 16 Pro Max still looks and feels like a premium flagship. It features a titanium frame, a textured matte glass back, and Apple's ceramic shield front glass. The phone is also large with a 6.9-inch display. And although newer iPhones may bring some design changes, the 16 Pro Max still doesn't look outdated. In fact, if you put it next to many current smartphones, it still looks like a high-end device. The display is another major strength. The iPhone 16 Pro Max features a Super Retina XDR OLED display with Apple's ProMotion technology and an adaptive refresh rate of up to 120 Hz. Scrolling is extremely smooth, colors are excellent, contrast is deep, and the display can get very bright outdoors. For watching movies, gaming, browsing social media, or simply using the phone every day, this is still one of the best smartphone displays you can get. Now let's talk about performance. The iPhone 16 Pro Max is powered by Apple's A18 Pro chip, and this is where the phone still has a huge advantage. Even though newer processors exist, the A18 Pro remains extremely powerful. Apps open quickly, games run smoothly, video editing is excellent, and the phone has enough performance for demanding tasks. For the average user, there's very little that the iPhone 16 Pro Max can't handle. And because Apple controls both the hardware and software, the optimization is one of its biggest strengths. Now let's talk about cameras. The iPhone 16 Pro Max has a 48 megapixel main camera, a 48 megapixel ultra wide camera, and a 12 megapixel 5x telephoto camera. It also supports advanced photography features, macro photography, Pro RAW, night mode, and Apple's computational photography. But one of the biggest reasons to buy this phone is video. The iPhone 16 Pro Max is still an excellent choice for creators. It offers high quality video recording, strong stabilization, excellent dynamic range, and consistent colors. If you're someone who creates content for YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, or other platforms, this camera system is more than capable. Now let's talk about battery life. This is another area where the Pro Max model performs very well. Because of its large size and efficient A18 Pro processor, the phone can comfortably handle a full day of heavy use for many users. Of course, battery health matters when buying a used or refurbished device. A brand new battery and a heavily used battery are two very different experiences, and that brings us to one of the biggest reasons someone might consider buying the 16 Pro Max in 2026, the price. When it launched, the iPhone 16 Pro Max was a very expensive smartphone, but as newer generations arrive, the price of the 16 Pro Max is falling, and this is where the phone starts becoming much more interesting. If you can find a good 256 gigabyte model at a significantly lower price than a current generation Pro Max, the value becomes much better. A refurbished or used model can make even more sense, especially if it comes from a trusted seller and has a healthy battery. However, there are some disadvantages. First, this is still a large and heavy phone. It weighs around 227 grams, so people who prefer compact smartphones may find it uncomfortable. Another issue is charging. Apple has improved charging over the years, but compared with some Android flagships, the iPhone 16 Pro Max is not particularly fast. You also don't get the extreme charging speeds offered by brands like Xiaomi, OnePlus, or some other Chinese manufacturers. And then there is the software question. The iPhone 16 Pro Max supports Apple Intelligence, but newer iPhones will naturally receive the newest hardware and AI capabilities first. And with the iPhone 18 generation approaching, the 16 Pro Max is no longer Apple's newest technology. So, should you buy it? Well, it depends on the price. If you're paying close to the price of a brand new current generation iPhone, I would not recommend the 16 Pro Max. At that point, spending a little more for a newer model makes more sense. But if you find a good deal, especially on a refurbished or lightly used device, the situation changes completely. You're getting a 6.9-inch 120 Hz OLED display, the A18 Pro processor, a powerful Pro camera system, 5x optical zoom, excellent video recording, strong battery life, titanium construction, and Apple's ecosystem. And all of that in a phone that is still very powerful in 2026. So, what are the biggest advantages? The performance is excellent. The display is fantastic. The cameras are versatile. Video recording is one of the best in the smartphone market. Battery life is strong. The titanium design still feels premium, and the Apple ecosystem remains a huge advantage. The biggest disadvantages? It's heavy. Charging is slower than many Android competitors. The phone is no longer the newest iPhone, and buying it at the wrong price can completely destroy its value proposition. So here's my final verdict. If you're upgrading from an older iPhone and can find the 16 Pro Max at a good price, yes, it is still absolutely worth considering in 2026. But I wouldn't recommend buying it blindly. The price is everything. If the difference between the 16 Pro Max and a newer iPhone is small, go with the newer model. But if you can save several $100s by choosing the 16 Pro Max, you're still getting a premium flagship that can easily last for years. And with the iPhone 18 generation approaching, prices on older models could become even more attractive. So, is the iPhone 16 Pro Max still worth it in 2026? Yes, but only at the right price. It may no longer be Apple's newest iPhone, but it's still one of the most capable smartphones you can buy. And if you find a good deal, the iPhone 16 Pro Max could actually be one of the better value choices in Apple's lineup. What do you think? Would you buy the iPhone 16 Pro Max in 2026, or would you spend more money on a newer iPhone? Let me know in the comments.